This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, Relmar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We're coming to you through the ever-expanding X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net, and can also be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring the ancestors. Speaking of the shamanic way, my original teacher once said, "In and of ourselves we're nothing, yet through our earth and star connection, through the power of our ancestors and descendants, all things are possible." This is a deeper statement than it first appears. My understanding of it over the last 40 years has expanded greatly. In order to truly embrace a shamanic way, we must first become nothing. No ego, no agenda, no identity, no judgment, nothing. Many a brutal shamanic initiation is designed to achieve that nothingness, as the initiate must get out of their own way before embracing the shamanic one. Only then can we become the hollow bone through which to channel the spirits of the earth, the stars, our ancestors, and our descendants. Only then can we perform consistently clean and empowered shamanic work. Another statement he made has deepened with meaning over time. "I cannot show you your path, but only activate what you are. You must then fill in the blank spaces between what I teach and what's in your blood." At the time, I thought he was pointing out the limitations due to my being mostly white. Back then, I was unaware shamanic practices other than the Native American existed. After his death, I sought out teachers from multiple traditions. Those that resonated came from my blood lineage. Native American for sure, but the Celtic way spoke to my Irish heart as few others did. If my practice was all about me, this would be all well and good. But I've been called not only to work shamanically for others, but to teach the shamanic arts. Thus, I have come to really appreciate the value of learning shamanic traditions from nationalities other than my own lineage. When working on behalf of another, a shamanic practitioner's personal practice becomes a vehicle to come and go from the quantum level where the work is done. However, where the practitioner actually works is the energetic field of the client. In this field are the influences, metaphors, and traditions of the client's personal lineage rather than that of the practitioner. It's in the blood, in the DNA, just waiting to be decoded. The precious stories and powers of the prior generations of our lineage are not lost to us, no matter how far back they go. Our roots run deep into the homelands of long ago. I've shown you what I can, but my blood is Lakota. My people, Lakota, yours from many lands. Go to your ancestors, Wiyaka. Only they can give you what you need. They're your teachers now, the old shaman advised not long before he crossed. When he died, I felt very abandoned. I didn't have a fraction of what I needed to go on. I was so caught up in my grief, it took years to truly re-engage and follow his advice. Yet I still didn't understand the magnitude of his parting words. Years later, I was composing a song. As is the way with all my compositions, they simply come through me unplanned. In this case, the song came through in my sleep. I woke to jot down the words and hum the melody into a recorder and then fell back to sleep. The next day, while writing the song from my nighttime notes and recording, one line struck like a freight train. I goosebumped all over, suddenly knowing what my old teacher had tried to tell me about my heritage, my power, and my purpose. In my blood flow many rainbows. In my heart, forgotten ways. From the winds of time, Starfire. Locked in our blood, in our DNA, are the secrets of the ages. Only by standing in the present moment, in true expression of what we are, can we access the treasure. It's time the Rainbow Tribe. Each of us carries a piece of the puzzle, without which the fabric of the new world cannot be woven. Our guest this hour, EVELYN C. RYSDYK, is the author of many books on shamanism. We'll introduce EVELYN after this commercial break. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Prior innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net.
This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at www.drgibbswilliams.com.
Shamanism is recognized as a method to access the quantum level. Mastery of shamanic skills puts spiritual information and healing power into your hands. Path Home Shamanic Art School, a bonded Colorado certified occupational school, has met rigorous state standards, ensuring its director and instructors have the qualifications to teach the shamanic arts. Path Home offers its certification program in blocks of study. Block 1, a 5-day intensive, will be held in the beautiful mountain town of Coaldale, Colorado, October 13th through 18th. Registration deadline is September 12th. Experience journey trance, power animals, helping spirits, sacred space, and life purpose. Come discover your power. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, in the magical world of shamanism. Call 303-775-3431 or visit findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is EVELYN C. RYSDYK, the author of several books on shamanism, including The Norse Shaman, Spirit Walking, A Course in Shamanic Power, and A Spirit Walker's Guide to Shamanic Tools. An impassioned shamanic teacher, EVELYN is featured in the Shift Network's 2016 Global Shamanism Summit and is a presenter for the international program A Year of Ceremony. EVELYN's website is www.evelynrysdyk.com. That's EVELYNRYSDYK.com. EVELYN, thank you so much for joining us on the Science of Magic.
Well, thanks for having me.
This should be fun. Could you start, we're going to go back to basics. Could you start by defining shamanism for our people?
I certainly can. By the way, I loved your teaching on the show. This is really brilliant way to start.
Thank you.
Shaman is the individual that attended to harmony not only between people in the tribe, but also between the physical and the non-physical beings that were part of the environment. So the shaman is the one that attends to harmony. And to do that, they would expand their awareness to be able to perceive all the elements that needed to be harmonized. So in terms of a client or a patient, it would be harmonizing their own spirit, removing that which didn't belong, bringing back that which did, helping to empower them. In harmonizing the way people were with their environment, they would work with the plants and the trees and the spirits of the rocks and the rivers in order to keep the people in harmony with them. So giving voice to those that would not normally have a voice. So shamanism really is as old as humankind. It's the tradition that arose from our hunter-gatherer roots, and that way it's a global tradition. And everybody's ancestors practiced some form of shamanism somewhere along the line. And that action of expanding awareness could happen in lots of different ways. Everything from staring into a fire to fasting to dancing until you had a vision to listening to drumming or rattling. There's a myriad of different ways because we're wired for that kind of experience.
You know, it sounds to me like, as you're speaking, that in order to affect the change, to bring harmony through the elements back to their clients, requires a certain amount of power, of wielding power into the world. So where does a shaman get their power?
Shamans borrow their power. The shaman in and of herself or himself, it has to be solid in their ability to hold on to a thread that is their own, certainly. But they borrow power from the natural world. They borrow power from the cosmos. They can do this because they're in relationship with all the beings around them. So if you're borrowing the power of the river that flows near the home in order to do your work, you have to have a relationship with that river as a being. You have fed that river. You've cared for that river. You have spent time with that river simply conversing and learning the river's stories. And so that gives you the opportunity to then share power for a little while in order to accomplish your work. So the attention to relationship is really critical in shamanic work. You know, we have a very different idea of a person of power, I think, in our culture. It's somebody who stands apart and has gathered a lot around them, because we confuse spiritual power, I think, with the power in the material world. And spiritual power is really based in relationship, based in how we are as a being with all the other beings around us. Because we know, just like in the human world, if you have developed a strong friendship with someone, you very easily share back and forth. And the same thing is true with the non-physical beings that work with the shaman.
So, would you go in a little bit? I find it so fascinating, the difference between what people in ordinary reality consider to be power and what shamanic power really is. How can you tell the difference?
Well, there's wonderful, in the Germanic languages, there's a wonderful way to look at power in two different ways. They have two different words that refer to power. One is Kraft, which means energy, and the other one is Macht, which means force. And power, in the shamanic sense, is really about working with energy. It's not about having forcing your way over something else. It's about using energy to create harmony and flow. And go ahead.
So it's more like empower versus overpower.
Yes, that's an excellent way to say it. That's exactly right. It's an energy form of power. Like the word for power plant would be a craftswork. It's a work that creates energy. And you think about the way we refer to big nations as superpowers. You know, it's a mocked kind of energy. It's that overbearing kind of energy, and that's really the antithesis of where we need to go as a collective.
And so how can shamanic practitioners be sure they're not misusing the power as they access it?
You know, for myself, because I came into this world as a pretty strong personality, I continually work with my teachers in the spirit world to support me to be clear. I do my own offerings. I do my own attending to my own spiritual health. I have other people work on me that I trust. I make sure that my vision is clear, and I always have the spirits that I work with guide me. As soon as I think it's my idea to move forward in a direction, I feel like I blur the line, and I have to remember to do this in concert and have the voice of my spirits be as loud as the voice of my mind or heart, so that we're in working together, we have the best outcome.
That's beautifully stated.
Yep.
So when working in the shamanic way, I think so often people mistake, I need to learn the rituals, I need to learn the practice, and then I can just wield it with my ego and we're all good. But you have to become the practice, don't you?
You do, and really I think the basis of any shamanic work is attending to those relationships we have with the natural world. We are intricately woven into all that is. And yet we, as human beings, tend to think of ourselves as independent operators. And that is what has gotten us into a lot of trouble, because we've created destruction not only in the natural world, but we have wielded power inappropriately in terms of other people, other cultures, and that is really the ego driving the ship. And when we back up and remember that we are already in relationship with these beings, and we need to attend to that. We need to learn where our place is in the world, where our place is in nature. And because we are not independent beings, we are incredibly reliant on all the beings around us. If you think about, I have an exercise in my most recent book, where not the Norse Shaman, but in Spirit Walking, where I ask people to think about how many hands it took to get them their cup of coffee in the morning. You know, everything from the people who attended the plants, you know, in another country, and then not only human hands, what else contributed to those beings being able to grow? The wind, the sun, the rain, all of the steps along the way to get your cup of coffee in a paper cup. And then there's the people that, you know, harvested the trees to make the paper. So to get that single cup of coffee in the morning, to get your eyes open, took so many hands, so many beings. So we're in relationship already with them. Wouldn't it be nice to be consciously in relationship?
Yes. One of the problems that many of us are living today, I have the good fortune at this point, that I live clear off grid. I'm up in the middle of the mountains. I've got a river running right by me. So I'm really in constant contact with, I walk the dog, my feet are on the earth. I'm in constant contact with the natural world. Most of our people are not. And what advice do you have for people that are, they're living in the cities? They're confronted with the matrix versus the way life works. How can they start to realign with all of our relations?
Well, years and years ago, I was teaching a class in Montreal in the winter, and the group that had gathered there, they had shamanic practices, and they were used to doing their shamanic work in the country. They'd go off and do retreats and do their shamanic work, and then they'd come back and live in Montreal. So during this workshop, which was actually held on the 7th floor of a building, we went down in the elevator. We had them doing offerings in January to the little trees in the city. I said, how many of you spend most of your time in the city? And they all raised their hands. And we had to work through a translator, which was interesting. Then how do you feel about those trees that you pass on your walk every day? And they piped up about how beautiful it is, and I look forward to the one changing color outside my apartment. I said, good, we're going to make offerings to those trees today. And we did simple things. I had slices of bread, and they saved a little bit of their lunch to put on their slice of bread like a plate. And everyone rode down the elevator with their little slice of bread with their offering, and they spread out from the place where we had our workshop, and they would to do their prayers of gratitude to the little trees in the city. I said, those trees need your support even more than the trees in the forest that you're used to working with in your shamanic practice. They are not in their native environment, and you can help them to feel at home. Give them the love that they deserve. And so in that small gesture, they had a reawakening that, of course, they're in nature. Even though there's concrete all around, it's still all made of the stuff of Mother Earth. And if we attend to where we are, bloom where we're planted, open our hearts and our minds to the place where we live, to the little parks, there are trees and grass, to the sky overhead, to the ground that's beneath our feet, the waters that run beneath our feet. If we open our heart to that, we can feel just as rich and full as somebody who is fortunate enough to live off the grid.
It's an amazing thing. It's the true service in this day and age, don't you think, is to create sacredness where we stand?
It also helps us to know that no matter where we are, we can experience that sacredness. Because we tend to compartmentalize in our culture that we can only do this in this place and that somewhere else. And to remember that where we are right now, and from a physics point of view, there is no literal center of the universe. That the center of the universe is everywhere.
We're going to have to pick up on this, Evelyn, on the other side of a commercial break. It's fascinating.
Right
yeah. So Evelyn and I will return to our discussion after this break. You're listening to The Science of Magic on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Previous broadcasts of thought-provoking episodes can always be found on our website, Our Gift to You, www.thescienceofmagic.net. We will be back, so don't you go away.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is EVELYN C. RYSDYK, the author of The Norse Shaman, among other fine shamanic books. EVELYN, it seems like when we're thinking of shamanism, most people envision the Native American medicine people. Could you tell us how many other shamanic practices there are and what you know about them? Here's a big one.
That is a big one. I can share what I have studied so far. That I've worked with a shaman from southeastern Siberia, the last male shaman of his people, the Ulchi. I've worked with a Peruvian shaman from the Andes. I've worked with a woman who was a shaman in Tuva, which is a Central Asian republic next to Mongolia. I've also worked with Nepalese Jankri, which is their word for shaman. I've worked with him for 8 or 9 years now. And I've had teachings from Native American elders, and I've learned things about health shamanism. And what I have learned through those explorations, there's far more in common than there is difference. The
Yeah.
threads of shamanism are the same all around the world, all through time. But the specific cultural rituals that are born from the experience of those people can be very different. And that's why it's important to look not only at the rituals, but what is behind the rituals. What is the way of being that is behind? Because we tend to, as you said earlier, see if we learn the rituals just right, then we'll be able to do the work. And it really is a matter of learning a way of being, and then the rituals flow from that.
So, from what I hear you say, and this is kind of a big subject for me, that if we truly study and know all the principles from various traditions, because they have a lot in common, then we can stay in the moment and make living rituals that are still, anchored in the tried and true traditions. Is that possible?
Oh, I absolutely believe that. Remember, the original tribal shamans didn't have dogma that they practiced. They learned how to do a ritual based on circumstance and based on the relationships that they had with the spirits that were around them. So these rituals that have become codified over time in a culture really were born out of a necessity. They were born out of a circumstance, and they flowed from that need in the moment. So it flowed from the need of, I want to, for instance, an offering ritual that can be very specific in one culture than the next. It flows from that, I need to take care of this being that I love. I need to prepare this being that cares for me all the time, a beautiful meal in respect for all that I am given. So that urge is what gave birth to the ritual. And so when we just replicate the ritual, we have missed the point completely. We need to replicate the feeling, replicate that sense of being in relationship and being in a loving relationship, really, with these other beings. And then from that flow the rituals.
In writing about the Norse shaman, you've gone back in history, well, actually predating the Vikings. How did you do your research, and where did you get your information?
I've done a lot of research over the years on the topics that are in here, probably over 10 or 15 years, because it's something that fascinates me. Our human origins and how we evolved culture is a source of interest. It's also a source of curiosity in terms of how did we get so far off course? How did we fall into this pit of degrading everything around us in order that human beings stand somehow above everything? That didn't seem to make sense. That evolution from small hunter-gatherer bands that had to live in harmony with the world to the way we operate now, that is a very curious journey. And so to have looked at that and all the different components over the year, trying to break it down so that I could have some sense in my heart about how that happened, because I'm a product of that. All of us living today in Western culture are a product of that breakdown of relationship. And learning where we went off the rails is one way that we can bring ourselves back on track, back into harmony, and change really our trajectory that can reharmonize our relationship with the natural world and help the health of the earth to come back. I like to say the earth will live in some form or another, with or without us. And
that's well put.
It may not sustain life if we keep it up, but she'll be, living her life. If we want it to sustain life, if we want it to be the rich garden that it is, we need to contribute to helping it to be that way. And we only preserve those things that we love. We only take care of those beings that we feel a heart connection to. So we have to develop heart connections to more than just our human relations. We need to develop those heart connections to the rest of the natural world, and indeed even to other human beings that may look different and sound different than we do.
It seems like part of the problem is that we've disconnected from heart overall. I just personally can't fathom some of the atrocities that are being done out there coming from anybody that had anything remotely resembling an open heart. How can you do that? I just don't think you can.
Well, except you see the same people are very loving toward their families. And that split comes from separation. The split where people can be loving toward their own children or their own spouse or their own mother or father, and yet turn around and do something heinous to someone who is considered an other. That is the sign of disconnection. How we can be loving toward our family and then go out and clear cut a forest is because we have that sense of separation.
Right, so and that separation leaves us open to overpowering versus empowering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I think the return to the heart is certainly part of it, but the return to being in relationship, recognizing that we are already connected. Now it's time to be in relationship. It's also helping people who confuse electronic connectivity with real connection. We have a lot to relearn about relationship.
Absolutely, we do. And if we don't learn about relationship, we can't even develop one with ourselves, right?
Indeed, absolutely.
Isn't that the first disconnect?
I think it is. I think it may be that the first disconnect with us as individuals is when we are born, we go from this wonderful feeling of floaty connectedness, we're in that space where we don't perceive anything as separate. And then we're thrust into the world, and suddenly all of our senses go online. Imagine suddenly you can feel your skin, there's brightness even with your eyes closed, there's sound, there's all this tactile experience. And I think our brain starts to process that, and in paying attention to just our senses, we start to lose that other way of knowing. And I'd like to remind people that their senses, while they are marvelous gifts, are also incredibly limited. We can only hear a small band of sound. Our dogs can hear above it, bats can hear above it, whales and elephants can hear below it. The same thing is true with sight. We only can see the spectrum. Honeybees can see in ultraviolet, and every hawk and raptor can see infrared. So we are defining our reality by what we touch and what we see. So when two of us are sitting in the same room, we perceive space between each of us. And yet that space is not true. We are overlapping in our energy fields. We are intimately connected to all the other beings around us, but our senses tell us otherwise. And so because we were not raised with people that remind us that your senses are wonderful, but this is also true, we have to relearn that. We have to relearn that it is not just what you see and you taste and you touch and you hear that is true. It's more. And in fact, that which is more is actually more important.
Do you see the bridge between our five senses as we express them or sense them here and all that is that bridge between us and the natural world, us and the elements?
I think the natural world is a great bridge for us because it's a combination of the sensory experience, and then we have this awareness. The more we are in nature, the more we have an awareness of the sentience that's all around us. That that there is intelligence in the trees, that there is intelligence all around you, and that nature is watching you as much as you are looking at it. And I think that experience helps us to kind of shake out the cobwebs of our ordinary way of thinking and begin to see that everything is connected and alive and that we are a part of it. Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
They're talking today about how there is a theory now that they've seen happen, that the oldest tree in a forest functions like a grandparent, and that if you leave that tree standing, the rest of the forest does fine. It does beautifully. And you can harvest some of the smaller trees, and the forest is healthy. But if you choose to harvest that grandparent tree, the forest withers and dies, because that forest is connected to that elder. That forest is all interconnected beings. And it's receiving some kind of nurturance and care from that grandparent in a way that we don't fully understand.
That's so beautifully stated.
We have to relearn that.
Absolutely. It's a matter of relearning, isn't it? I know my teacher, one of my original teachers, taught me when you're harvesting sage, you go and you ask the largest sage plant permission, but then you don't touch it. You harvest from the others as directed by the chief.
Yes, there it is. There it is again. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing. We could learn so much from the natural world if we can just reconnect with it. And I think that we have to reconnect with it for us to continue. And speaking of continuing, it's time to go into another commercial break. Evelyn and I will be back on the flip side of this commercial break. You're listening to The Science of Magic on the ever-expanding X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. The place where altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric create common ground for the betterment of our world. You can always listen to previous transformative broadcasts on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Now don't you guys leave me. We'll be right back.
As host of Dialogue with Divinity, I am thrilled to join the X-Zone Broadcast Network and their growing number of affiliates. My quest for a connection to the divine ignited my successful career path as an international spiritual counselor for over 40 years, an author of 4 books, and well-known metaphysical educator. My clients call me their spiritual mama. So my job is to offer you a radio show to help you grow spiritually with wisdom and get specific tools from guests who are experts in their field. Tune in to Dialogue with Divinity and be part of the conversation with Spirit. My goal, your happy soul. For more information, please visit my website at johannacarroll.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Coming soon to the X-Zone Broadcast Network is A Different Perspective with me, Kevin Randall, as your host. We'll be taking a close look at what is happening in the world of UFOs today with side trips into the paranormal. Guests will range from those who are household names to those who have a different perspective on a variety of topics. No topic will be taboo, but there will be tough questions asked as we all search for the truth about UFOs, the paranormal, and those things that excite us. Sometimes we'll agree with a guest and sometimes we won't, but we'll try to keep the program topical. For those of you who would like to read, be sure to visit www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com and remember to listen to the other fine programs on the X Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net. This is Kevin Randle. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com.
What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour, EVELYN C. RYSDYK, is the author of the Norse Shaman and many other fine books on shamanism. We've been having a lot of fun dancing in the shamanic way. EVELYN, how does a modern-day application of shamanic principles differ from the ancient ones?
Well, I probably, in terms of individual survival, you know, back in the original days of shamanic practice, we needed support in being able to find what we needed to eat and find what we needed for shelter, heal the sick that we depended upon in order for the group to survive. Now I think it's more about thriving. You know, we've got our, relatively so, we have our needs met in terms of survival. But to be able to truly thrive, we need to reintroduce ourselves to the wider world in which we are participants. And that reconnection in whatever way we choose to do it, is part of really enriching and fulfilling not only ourselves, but fulfilling our potential as human beings, as stewards of the planet, and as the seeds for the new kind of humanity that is yet to emerge.
I love that. I love that. You know, it seems like we are about to change, or we have the opportunity to change into the new human beings, if you will. What do you think is giving us that opportunity at this time?
I think it's a natural evolution for us. And I think it's already underway, and if it weren't underway, we wouldn't see so much backlash in the world. The polarization we experience now, I think, is a direct reflection of the growth that we are already engaged in. I mean, we're moving to the place where we're seeing the entire planet as our home, the entire planet as an interconnected ecosystem, and at the same time, we're seeing people who want to continue to create a fractured reality. And that is, I think, a response to this evolution that some people in their fear feel as though they're going to be left behind. That if something changes, they will somehow lose. And really, this evolution is something that can take all of us to the next step. It can renew us, renew our covenant with the natural world, and perhaps even take us onward to new worlds. But after we learn how to be in respect to the one we were born on.
Beautiful. You know, life tends to travel in cycles. What can we learn from our past about our future?
Well, our ancestors had to survive incredible climatic changes, particularly around the endings of the ice ages, which we think of the ice age as a one-time event, but the glaciers advanced and receded many times, and our ancestors' environments could shift from tundra to forest and back again within a lifetime. That would mean their food sources would change. They would lose land. They would be homeless. There was great loss of life. And so we have to learn, because we are creating similar kind of conditions, only this time we've done it to ourselves. It's not just a climactic shift on the planet that is natural. We have learned the lesson of caring for the collective, because people are going to be displaced in these changes, and these displacements are going to cause a great deal of strife. And so we need to remember that we need to travel through this period of change as a family, not just all of the human beings as a family, but all of nature as a family. If we want to get to the other side of this, we have to do it as a collective. That's our only way.
Before we run out of time, Evelyn, would you mind telling our listeners where they can find your books and your services?
Well, you can always check out my webpage. It's EVELYN, EVELYN, and my last name is strange, so I'll spell it slowly. It's R, Y like in yellow, S like in Sam, D like in David, Y like in yellow, K.com. And through that, you can find workshops, you can find my books, and they're available, on all the usual places out there. And fortunately, if you Google my name, you can find it pretty easily, because there aren't too many people with that name.
I was going to say, yours bad as mine is. What occurs to me, Evelyn, is we are going into not totally unprecedented times, because, like you pointed out, it's happened in ancient history. But the way we've been taught to do things, a dogmatic, poke the button and this comes out the other side, is increasingly failing us because the rules are changing out there. Do you think that puts us in a position to really benefit from living shamanism versus the ritualistic one, and how can we engage in that?
Learn how to journey so that you can be in dialogue with the environment around you, because the trees know when change is coming, the birds know when change is coming, the animals know when change is coming. You can be able to weather life's storms when you recognize that you have allies all around you, and then make sure that you care for those who don't have the same kind of access through journeying. Be part of your communities, be part of the larger world, and support that kind of unity, because through unity there is tremendous strength. We can hear all the brilliant voices that are in our community. There are so many brilliant minds and wonderful voices that don't always get to be heard, and when we bring all of that wisdom to bear, we can do marvelous things.
How can we step out of the illusion? How can we step out of the programmed thinking enough to reconnect?
I think journeying really does that. If you can't find somebody to teach you to journey, look online, pick up books, do whatever it is you have to do to learn how to expand your awareness, because you will then have an opportunity to get the 30,000-foot view of your own experience. And that viewpoint will help to change everything. It helped to bring me out of a depression many years ago, and I think it can help to bring our collective out of this sort of anxious and depressed time as well.
Well, the question begs answering. Evelyn, what is journeying?
Journeying is the action of altering our consciousness. I like to think of it as expanding awareness into those non-tangible worlds. You called it earlier in your teaching the quantum world. It's everything that lies just beyond our senses, that is just as real as what it is we can smell and taste and touch. And it can be done through journeying, through repetitive dancing. There are lots of different ways to do that, because you, each and every one of you, are hardwired to do it. It's part of our birthright. And just find the way that works for you to be able to step beyond the limitation of your senses, and you will feel that you step beyond the limitation that you feel inside yourself.
Is it a conscious shift in brainwaves? Do we change our brain patterns when we go into journey space?
We do. We shift, and we do that all the time when we're falling asleep and waking up. Those are all shifts in brainwave states. This is a way to do it consciously when you choose. It's much more of a right-brained, high alpha and theta wave state of being. And in that state of being, it allows us to perceive more than ordinary reality, more than our senses tell us. So it's something that's a very human ability, and it's just about learning how to do it effectively and then practicing it so that you can do it anytime.
It's like walking a living dream.
Yes.
And, we have prophetic dreams. We're getting this information all the time, but our way of life has taught us to ignore it, hasn't it?
Yes, because we slice the bologna ever thinner. We think imagination is something different from dreaming, something different from vision, something different from shamanic journeying. And really, we open that door to expanded awareness in many different ways. Journeying is just one way to do it consciously.
So this information comes through our expanded awareness or our altered state. And what scares me isn't that what happens when we're drooling in front of a TV set? We're kind of going into that state, but then we're being spoon-fed reality versus accessing it from nature.
True, and we're taking some other human's version of reality. When we journey, we step beyond our small human world into that larger consciousness, where we can receive guidance that is in balance and in harmony with life. It's not someone else's spoon feeding us, as you say.
Evelyn, this has just been absolutely wonderful. I can't thank you enough for being on the show. And where do you live? Where are your classes?
My home base is in Maine, but we teach all over the country and into Canada, and I do a lot more and more online. So getting on my newsletter is one way to stay in touch, and you can do that by going to the Spirit Passages section on EVELYNRYSDYK.com. That's where all the teaching is.
Thank you so much for spending your time to share your wisdom with our listeners. Our guest this hour has been EVELYN C. RYSDYK, the author of Norse Shaman and other great books. Her website, www.evelynrysdyk.com. This has been The Science of Magic. Remember, you can always listen to past thought-provoking episodes on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge, comforted with love, and supported by your ancestral heritage.
One people, one nation, searching through the night. One people, one nation.